producing inevitably some large hail. Let's go to a wider view with our graphic system. And again, what you're going to see here, you can see the dry line is now between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. For the city of Tuscaloosa, the severe weather risk has ended. You are now in drier air. The storms that redevelop this afternoon will be along and east of this dry line. You can see these showers forming on the line itself from Huntsville down to about Jasper. For Birmingham, we'll say the risk will be over at about 4:30. That's about the time Birmingham should be in dry air. The risk should be over for Aniston and Gadsden about 7 o'clock. But between now and then, we clearly have the possibility of a few storms with large hail, damaging wind, and the chance of tornadoes. We stress that there is a tornado watch currently in effect for much of north, central, southeast Alabama. There's a look at our watch area. You can see the area is highlighted in yellow. Notice the Weather Service in Huntsville has cleared some of the counties up in northwest Alabama from the watch. That's where dry air is taken over. And quite frankly, we can almost drop the counties ourselves. We don't do that, but I'm sure it's going to happen soon. Marion, Winston, Fayette, Tuscaloosa, you are now in dry air, and probably Walker as well. The odds of any severe weather here have pretty much ended. The main risk will be along and east of I-65 for the rest of this afternoon and this evening. And again, that's the warning polygon. That is for the far northern part of Talladega County. So let's go back to our storm chaser, Meghan Thomas and Brian Peters. Tell us where you guys are and what you got there.
Okay, James, we're on 77, just a little bit, probably about 4 or 5 miles south of the Interstate 20, and we're getting rain, heavy rain, but we're also getting a lot of pea-sized hail with it. It's rain and hail mixed as it's crossing 77.
Okay, Brian, and again, so you are on Alabama 77 now, correct?
Yes, correct, and we're headed southbound. The hail is getting much bigger. Oh, my gosh, I don't know if you can hear it. The hail is getting a whole lot bigger. It's still hard to tell the size because I can't see it very well. You know how it is when it's raining and hailing. The two are mixed together, and I can't really get a good hail size, but the hail is picking up.
It's about pea-size right now.
Substantially. It's about pea-size. Oh, no, I see some, we're getting some quarter size. This is 1-inch hail. We're definitely getting 1-inch hail, and it's almost 50-50 rain and hail mixed.
Okay, and again, we're going to stay with Brian Schott. This is a severe storm that is north of the city of Talladega, approaching the Talladega Superspeedway, and hail right now is the main threat. What about the wind, Brian? It looks like the wind, it's gusty, but maybe not as bad as it could be.
We're not getting much in the way of wind as far as I can tell right here, James. We're by some trees, but I don't see much in the way of motion with the trees as far as wind goes. But we certainly have a good deal of hail. I don't know if you can see it on the highway or not. It's probably on the order of 1 to maybe 1.5 inches. Some of them are getting
bigger by the minute.
And they're getting bigger by the minute. Megan just got a few of them off the ground. And believe it or not, James, most of them are not round. They're flat. They're very flat. But they're at least an inch. Oh, man, we're getting a few more that are bigger than an inch. Can't tell quite the size again because of the way they're falling with the rain.
I think you guys might see some golf ball-sized hail in that. The Ville products are around 80 kilograms.
Yeah.
It's going to get heavier here in the next minute or two.
I think you're absolutely right.
In fact, I don't know, Dennis, if you can double box Brian and the high-resolution radar. I've got the vertical integrated liquid product, or VIL, which is a pretty good indicator of hail. And it's basically maxed out at 80 kilograms per cubic meter. And that is representative of some very large hail. And hope you don't lose a windshield out there, guys.
We hope not, too. Megan's got another couple of hailstones. These she's going to try to send you a photo. Oh, man, some of these are bouncing. James, some of these are bouncing off the ground like 3 feet high.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of resiliency.
So again, we've got 1-inch diameter hail falling, and again, this is our live stream from Storm Chaser 3340 along Alabama Highway 77 that is just north of the city of Talladega and south of the city of Lincoln. And we'll stay with this here as we've got these storms developing very rapidly. We expected that. There's our double box. You can see that white blob, Charles. That's our VIL product. and that's basically where the VIL is just maxed out. Brian, I know that you guys can see radar there in the chaser, so that is a great example of a combination of looking at VIL on radar and looking at the real world in real time. That just looks rough.
And it is, James. At one point, it looked like the rain was just to the south of us, but when the rain started, the hail started falling right away, too. But the hail continues to pick up. It's not so much the volume, but we're getting louder pings on the vehicle roof and the vehicle hood here. So the noise is getting a little worse. The rain looks like the rain's beginning to taper off somewhat where we are right now.
Yeah, the good news, this thing's moving pretty quickly, Brian, so it's not going to last particularly long at any one given location. But let's take Brian's image full screen again, his live video, and again, I'll throw up an image that Megan has just sent us of the hail that is falling here. And again, let's take that. We'll take another double box if we can, Dennis, and in the other box we'll have an image. That's an image of the hail.
Wow.
That's the way we like for it to be reported. It's to have, a coin up against the hail so we can see the size of the hail based on comparing that to a coin, a penny, a dime, a quarter. And obviously that's quarter-sized hail. A quarter is 1 inch in diameter, and that's the severe criteria. So it looks like it's starting to slow down already, Brian, huh?
Yeah, it does. The amount of pinging on the roof is down somewhat. The rain is also tapered off quite a bit. We're still getting just an occasional ping. And some loud pings too. So it's still much less 1 inch hail, but there's still some 1 inch particles falling. And I'm just amazed at the resiliency of these hailstones. When they hit the chaser, they're bouncing like 3 feet in the air.
Almost like Super Balls, huh? Brian, you were the only two guys old enough to remember Super Balls.
I'm old enough to remember Super Bowls, I'm afraid.
Actually, me too, James. Me too.
So anyway, again, this is the one severe storm we have in progress that is east of the dry line now, and that is located in the northern part of Talladega County. This is a severe storm that developed over really Shelby County. It produced some hail in Chelsea. It's come on through the northeastern part of Shelby County. Now it's been cutting across Lake Logan Martin, and the hail core is coming right on top of Brian and Megan and Storm Chaser 3340. Next in line will be Munford, and if this thing holds together, it's more than likely going to affect Oxford and the southern part of the city of Aniston. We're watching carefully for signs of rotation. We have not seen it so far. There is broad rotation in the storm, but there's not tight rotation like you'd expect to see for a tornado. So again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for northern Talladega County, and we will see if they extend that over into the Oxford area. So, Brian, just your thoughts on the day itself. You know, we got this dry line coming in from the west, and so far everything has gone on as expected. We had the morning storms with hail and strong winds. We had the midday lull. Right. Now the storms are redeveloping. Your thoughts on the tornado threat for East Alabama?
Well, first of all, James, one of my thoughts is, how often do you get to say a dry line in West Alabama?
Yeah, typically you're talking about West Texas.
Yes. I mean, when I think of the term dry line, when I think about dry line, oh my God, holy mackerel! Wow,
what happened?
You just hit a bird?
No, this is hail that's hitting us.
This is golf ball.
This is golf. I think we're getting golf ball size hail. We're pulling off the road here. Wow. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell so loud, but this hail is huge. Oh my God! I mean, when it hits the car, it is loud. There's golf ball size hail, James. I'm pretty sure. Holy mackerel!
I can't hold it.
Okay. I don't have a quarter to put in there or anything, but
I see it in my hands.
Yeah. I'm going to get a picture with Megan's phone here real quick. But this stuff is huge.
And again, for those that are just joining us, this is Brian Peters and Meghan Thomas and Storm Chaser 3340 in the core of a severe thunderstorm that is over northern Talladega County. They're on Highway 77. The good news, the hail's about to stop, Brian and Megan. You're about to...
Yes.
The storm is about to get on out of there where you're not going to have this problem anymore, but this is representative of what you can expect. And again, the next really populated community in the path of this thing is going to be Munford. If you're also up in... Yes.
The street looks like somebody has spilled their ice They're what do you call it? The ice box?
Slushy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It just, I mean, it looks that way. It really does.
Wow.
And she's sending you this picture. That is the biggest, I swear, 50 years in this business, that is the largest hail I've ever seen, and I think it qualifies for golf ball size.
Okay.
It's not even tennis ball.
And again, you can follow all of us on social media, and you'll see these images as they come in. But again, we're seeing a lot of reports coming in from Lincoln as well of similar type hail from this particular thunderstorm. And obviously, this will be a hail producer for sure. In fact, wow. If we can take, this is a look at Meghan's image that she just sent.
Wow.
And goodness, that's the kind of hail that's going to crack a windshield, guys. That looks pretty rough.
And no cracked windshields here.
That's good. No dents, I assume, in the chaser, but that's if we get them, we get them. That's
It'll
what that
buff
thing's
right
for.
out.
Yeah, they'll buff right out of there.
I don't see any dents so far.
Okay.
But these hailstones, James, are amazing. They're actually conglomerations of several little hailstones that are into bigger bunches that are then grouped together in larger bunches.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So again, this is the main issue we're having right now with the storm. It's large hail. And again, Brian, the other criteria is wind, and it seems like the wind was not that bad at your location as the storm came over there.
You're absolutely right. It was not. And James, I'm beginning to think you had some thoughts earlier about how things have played out today, and I really thought the tornado threat was bigger. But that stuff that we had this morning, I think, interrupted the ground flow, the flow near the ground of the air, and it brought the air mostly out of the south to southwest. And what we look for is more south to southeast. And so I think that may have played a role in reducing the tornado threat today.
Right. And again, we get soundings on a day like today. We get the upper air soundings early in the morning, about 6 o'clock. There was a midday launch today. And again, we just don't get hourly and continuous data from the upper air. But I think you're right. It seems like the winds down in the lower levels were out of the southwest instead of the southeast, which was what you want to see for tornado formation. But again, let us stress here, Brian, we got a tornado watch. And our friends at the Storm Prediction Center firmly believe that there is still the risk of tornadoes over the eastern half of Alabama, east of the dry line. So
and as you pointed out, there's even a broad rotation in this one that just moved over us, producing primarily hail.
Right. That storm is rotating. I mean, the storm that's come over you is rotating. And what you guys might do is get back on the interstate and head east and see if you can catch that thing coming through maybe around East Aboga and Coldwater Mountain in Oxford, in that this is still a storm that is showing signs of rotating. And if this thing were to go tornadic, that'd be a good place to maybe see this. So again, we're going to position Brian and Meghan. We're going to get them back up going north on 77, then back east on Interstate 20, and they will be intercepting the right rear flank of this storm, which is awfully close to the city of Talladega. In fact, what I'll do here is change the product from the reflectivity to the velocity display. And again, you can see that we've clearly got some rotation going on right back in through here. This is fairly broad at this point. We have not had any reports of tornadoes. And one thing about having Brian, Brian's our trainer. I mean, if anybody's going to see something, it's going to be Brian. So Brian will be kind of coming in on this thing. And hey, Brian.
Yes.
What do you think about going down to Talladega and going up Highway 21? You think that might be better?
I'm trying to decide. I've turned north on 77. Do you think that might be better? That might be a better course of action.
I honestly think that is the better course of action. So we're going to get Brian turned back going south down 77 to Talladega and then up Highway 21. Highway 21 goes through Munford and Oxford. And based on the trajectory of this, I think you'll have a better chance of seeing that back part, which is that rotational part you're seeing there in the velocity display. In fact, let me put up the reflectivity once again. And again, that storm, it's got a pendant down there. It's got the kidney bean shape, and it certainly looks like it might try and go into rotation. Also, it looks like we're starting to see a V-notch in the radar signature, which is a sign that the updraft is very intense. That means the upper winds having to split around that updraft. So we've got a very well-organized severe storm producing very large hail. Brian and Meghan are proof of that. They were in the middle of it, up to golf ball size.
Sent another picture, James.
Okay. And again,
she sent another picture, so they're lined up.
Okay, and again, this is the large hail part of the storm is basically about to come through the city of Munford. It's going to be up along Interstate 20 around Bynum and Coldwater and the depot. And we now have a new severe thunderstorm warning being issued by the National Weather Service in Birmingham. This is for parts of Calhoun, Cleburne, and Talladega counties until 5:15 this afternoon. And again, this is for the storm that we're watching now. The one thing about it, this is the one storm that we have in progress. We're not having to worry about multiple storms. But, Charles, this thing is getting its act together.
It really is. We talked about how the further east you go, the eastern half of the state, under the higher risk for tornadic development, really throughout the day. That's where we had, the SBC had that moderate risk, and of course we've talked about that throughout the day. In fact, I'm going to put that up here. And you can see, again, the eastern half of the state's been mainly our primary concern or biggest worry throughout the day. And the further east these storms go, the higher the chance of these storms developing. And again, we're not out of the woods just yet. There's still the chance that some of these storms might pop a tornado warning or two here and there. And I do think the counties right along the state line, if you're in even just Etowah, Cherokee, Calhoun, Cleburne, Randolph, Clay County, these are the areas that we're going to watch as we go into the afternoon. And it lasts until about maybe 8 o'clock tonight. So I think by the time we get that dry line through here, 8 o'clock tonight, it's over, it's done with. But again, we'll have to monitor again with this storm here, really starting to get better organized over the last 30 minutes or so. And again, strong updraft. We know that because of the large size of the hail. And I do think this is something we're going to monitor very closely. And there are a few more signatures beginning to pop up on the radar. I'm going to slide back into a different radar mode here so you can see the live sweep of the radar. We've got a few storms around. Another storm developing here to our south through parts of Coosa County. Not doing much yet, but neither did the storm that is active right now headed into Calhoun County. And again, you see the warning there. And that severe thunderstorm warning is there until, I believe it was, I missed the time actually.
Was it new warning?
Was it new warning? Was it 5:15?
Yeah, the new warning's till 5:15.
Okay, 5:15. There we go.
And let's go quickly to the back to the iPad source. Let me show you some of the hail images coming in. These are some more hail shots from that storm coming from Meghan Thomas. And again, what you've got there, you got the dime, and you can see that those are the hailstones that they were getting at their particular location. So another image of hail that was here. This is also from Talladega. And again, we love that. That's a classic way of reporting hail. We've actually got measurements there, and we can see that those hailstones are clearly well over 1 inch in diameter. And that's larger than the size of a quarter and about the size of a golf ball. And that's the kind of hail that's coming out of there now. Let's go back to the live stream with Brian and Meghan. Again, what they're going to do, they're going to go down Highway 21 and go down Highway 77 down into Talladega, then come up Highway 21 on the back side of this storm. And again, we can double box this thing, Dennis. We're going to kind of leave the live stream up, and Brian and Meghan, if you need to jump in, just let us know. Again, you're seeing the storm that they're chasing now. This is in the far northeastern part of Talladega County. Up and through here, we have large hail falling along Interstate 20 around the Coldwater, Bynum exits, the depot exit. Alabama Highway 202, and that large hail is going to be moving right up in here toward Aniston and Oxford. So if you are in Aniston or Oxford, be aware you've got the potential for a very large hail, a golf ball-sized hail at least. Another hail core. This is the second hail core that Brian and Meghan got into back in the southwestern flank of that storm down in through here. And we're watching this section right in through here. This is where we got some rotation going on. And understand that there's a very... it is clearly this is a supercell thunderstorm, but the circulation is not tight enough at this point in the low levels to warrant a tornado warning. Everybody's watching this thing very carefully, the Weather Service, and of course all of us here in the office. Jim Westland's on duty out at the Weather Service, and again, what I'll do is take a look at the reflectivity display, which will show the circulation, and you can see this thing it's spinning like a top right here, but it's not down at the surface, and it's not especially tight. So this is a rotating, dangerous supercell storm that is approaching Munford and Oxford, the southern part of the city of Aniston. And if you are along Highway 21, that circulation's coming up Highway 21, keep an eagle eye on this thing. And we're going to stay with this for now, and this storm is particularly one that we have to watch. in considering the fact that you've got large hail falling, you've got to be inside, obviously. Nobody needs to be outside simply because of the lightning, but also because of that very large hail. And again, if you feel comfortable just going to a safe place, you might just want to go to a safe place, like we have a tornado. And again, we stress there's no tight circulation, no evidence of a tornado at this point. But again, we'll get Brian up in a position where they can see this thing a little better. But that's the velocity. We'll go back to the reflectivity display. And again, you can see how the leading edge of this, if you will, is coming up into the Aniston metro. If you are in Aniston, you've got heavy rain that's starting to fall, a lot of thunder and lightning. It's starting to rain in Oxford, but the real problems begin back down the interstate, back down I-20 toward the Coldwater exit, and then down Highway 21 toward Munford. We've been watching the hail core kind of come and go in this thing, but again, the good news so far is that we've not had any reports of any tornado activity. And again, Brian, you just made the cut on 275, right?
Yes, sir. And I think we're seeing the hail core or hail shaft in the sunlight.
Yeah, that's a pretty dramatic shot you've got there, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know how it's showing up. I can't see the iPad too well.
It's great. It looks great. It looks great.
Okay. I do believe that is a hail shaft actually visible during the daytime.
Yeah, and again, just one note, Brian and Meghan are streaming this live on the 3340 Storm Chaser Facebook page. We know that people have multiple screens. Go ahead, Brian.
Can you all see the rainbow?
Yes. Yeah.
Very low, very broad rainbow, not a tight rainbow at all. I do believe that's a hail shaft right there ahead of us.
Right. We're starting to see hail images coming in now from Munford up Highway 21.
Lightning.
Yep.
And again, that's a very, I will say this is a dangerous supercell storm. But again, at this point, the rotation is not tight in the low levels, and the Weather Service, and I think they're perfectly correct, they are not issuing a tornado warning on this for now. What Jim is saying at the Weather Service is that this thing has ingested a shower that was to the south, and we could see an increase in low-level circulation once again. If you notice, there was a shower coming up from the south that was down below the city of Talladega. That's now being ingested back into this thing, and there's a chance that this. In fact, if we can double box this, we'll put Brian's stream and the radar. If you notice, there's a smaller shower that was south of the storm that's being kind of taken up into this, and now that we've had that ingestion process complete, that might increase the chance of an increase in low-level circulation. So the one thing about it, this is the one storm we've got. We talked about this last night. The storms would be very random and discrete and scattered, and that's exactly what we have. For a lot of people right now, the sun is shining, but for those in the path of that storm, this is one that you've got to watch very carefully. And again, we've got for sure, the one thing we know for sure, a very large hail core is coming right down Highway 21 and Interstate 20 from Munford and Bynum and East Aboga, the depot back over toward Oxford. The dangerous part of this storm is the southwestern flank, the right rear flank. It's not the part that's up around Sachs and Linlock and Alexandria and really downtown Aniston. The main concern, it's going to be, quite frankly, for a while south of Interstate 20. And again, that's why we're sending Brian up Highway 21 from Talladega back up toward Munford. So, Brian, how's it looking now?
Well, the road is turned a little away from the cell, but we can see the one being ingested into it that you mentioned coming up on radar. So we're basically getting on the east side of Talladega now. We'll be heading more northeast in just a couple of minutes, and I think that'll give us a little better view. But so far, that rainbow that's lying around the horizon, very low, is absolutely spectacular. It's not bright like a lot of rainbows, and it's not thin. It's very broad, but it's absolutely amazing. And
I think that's
we can see
related
the
to
end of it now. I don't know if there's a pot of gold down there, but it's right over the hill. I don't know if you can see it as we're turning the hill that's coming into view. The rainbow is just to the left.
In fact, let's take Brian's full screen for just a second. I'm going to change the source back on my box down here to show some hail images that are coming in. So if, Dennis, we can take Brian's image full screen. Many images of large hail are coming in now from this storm, and these are pretty large hailstones here.
We're at a dime-sized hail in downtown Aniston now.
Yeah, this is looks like that might be a ping pong ball, but that's huge. This is very large hail, and again, this is all falling in that same storm. And again, this is stuff you don't want to mess around with. It's very large. And again, this is an example. These are images captured from that same supercell that Brian is on right now. So let's go back to Brian's full screen. And again, we're going to watch this thing carefully, and we're going to stay with this. If you're in Aniston or Oxford, and Charles, again, this is one that at any minute could go into a mode where a tornado warning is needed.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Storm Prediction Center out of Oklahoma, they actually sent out just a mesoscale discussion saying this area, those counties, 2 counties deep inside the state line, generally all the way up into Tennessee, a higher risk still for strong tornado potential in the short term, their words. So again, as these storms approach the eastern counties, including Calhoun, Cleburne, Cherokee, Etowah, you are included in that, so you guys be aware and pay attention to this, that they think that approaching the state line, that's where we're going to see these storms really starting to spin up. And again, the circulation in this storm is there. It's just very broad. It has a chance of tightening up after it kind of ingested that shower. The inflow kind of mucked things up just a little bit, but I do think it gets better organized as it approaches. So again, moving eastbound, these storms are moving 35, 40 miles an hour, and you need to make sure you just have it in the back of your mind, where am I going to go if they do issue a tornado warning? If you want to go ahead and take shelter now, that would be fine, and let this one pass by. Those are some pretty large hailstones.
We got to open the 4 o'clock news right now. So
Let's
it's
go.
4 o'clock. Focus at 4 begins right now on ABC 3340.
ABC 3340 News starts now with a severe weather alert.
We got the warning several days ago, and now severe weather is upon us. Right now, much of the ABC 3340 viewing area under our tornado watch until 9 o'clock tonight.
Alabama's chief meteorologist James Spann, of course, is here right now. James, this is that second wave of storms, and this is the one that you guys said could really cause some trouble.
Right, and again, we're going to stay with this. Let's go right back to that double box. I'm going to go to Brian's live stream and our high-resolution radar, and this really tells the story. And we're going to stay with this. We're getting many images of very large hail, larger than golf balls. Brian and Meghan experienced that along Highway 77 earlier. And this is a supercell storm that is now skirting the southern part of the Aniston metro area. The most dangerous part of the storm will be near or just south of Interstate 20. We've had large hail falling in Munford. That'll be ending soon. Large hail is falling now in Oxford. And again, we certainly advise no travel along Interstate 20 between, say, Coldwater and Heflin for about the next 30 minutes to 1 hour. Brian Peters and Meghan Thomas are out in the field. Let's take that stream full, the live stream full, and I'll bring up some hail images in just a second. Go ahead, Brian. And Brian, what you got?
Okay, we're still on 21, James, heading northeast, just passing. I'm not sure what that. Oh, the Talladega Raceway. Sorry, I didn't recognize it from this point of view. But we're still seeing that what that is straight ahead of us. I think is still a pretty good indication of a hail shaft that's going on there. We're not seeing anything that would indicate a rotation of significance. That is, we're not seeing a rain-free base, nor are we seeing any kind of wall cloud. But we're still a little bit probably just a little bit too far away to see some of those low-level features that we've been teaching about at all the Storm Spotter sessions, James.
Okay, Brian, and again, you'll be a little closer here in just a minute. Let's go to some of the images of the hail that's coming in from this storm in East Alabama. And again, you can see this is an example of what's been falling in that particular storm that Brian and Meghan are on. Hailstones have clearly exceeded 1 inch in diameter. And again, this is the way we like to have the images come into us with something that we recognize, like a golf ball or a coin. And again, that's the ultimate way of measuring hail right there. That's a perfect way of doing that. So this storm is clearly severe because of the large hail. We have not heard of any reports of wind. Brian and Meghan have been on the storm, and we've not heard of much wind with this. Clearly, the big issue, it's the hail. And again, you can see the hail accumulating on that back deck right there. So let's go back to Meghan and Brian and their live stream out in the Storm Chaser. And you guys are on Alabama Highway 21, and you're probably getting pretty close to Munford now, right?
Pretty close. If you know where the construction zone is, we've just hit I guess you'd call this the southwestern end of the construction zone, where they're widening the 21 to 4 lanes. And that's where we are. So far, we haven't been able to see a whole lot more because of those things called hills and trees that are always in the way for storm spotters.
Okay, and if we can put the high-resolution radar behind me before we go to some live reports, I wanted to show this storm again. And we're starting to see evidence now of hail developing up on the northern end of this thing. This is what we've been watching down here. That's Interstate 20, and that's the problem area there. We're getting indication now possibly some fairly large hail falling here. This is Ohatchee. Alabama Highway 144 runs over to US 431 over toward Alexandria. And again, it looks like we could see some large hail falling in this northern end of the storm. But clearly, the part with the largest hail, the most dangerous part of the storm, is down there to the south. A couple of things I wanted to do before we go. We have a lot of questions from people about what's going to happen in their town. Let me just say that if you are in Tuscaloosa, Jasper, anywhere to the west of I-65, the severe weather risk has ended. Along and west of I-65, the severe weather risk is over. The dry line has come on to the east. It's past you, so you have no problems with additional storms tonight. You're in drier air. The problems along and east of I-65. We have this one supercell storm that is gathering all of our attention. We note other storms have formed down to the south. We have storms in parts of Coosa County. These are coming up toward Goodwater, and that might wind up in Clay County in just a bit, but there's no evidence of this being severe. In terms of Birmingham, I say for the whole Birmingham metro, the severe weather risk will be over by 4:30. It's 4:04, so about 30 minutes from now. You've got something going on in Birmingham this evening. About 4:30, the risk of additional storms is over. Obviously, the big problems are over here on the eastern side of the state, the eastern third of Alabama. The Storm Prediction Center put out a mesoscale update a few minutes ago that indicated that there is still potential for a few strong tornadoes on this part of Alabama based on the combination of instability and shear. And this was the thing we were concerned about during the course of the day today. So again, before we go to Jacksonville, Brian, let's take Brian's stream one more time. Brian, go ahead.
James, we're in Munford now, and it's absolutely amazing. It's golf ball hail everywhere. You can see it. It's not thick, but looking along the curbs.
Yeah, they're in bad cell phone coverage there.
Out onto the.
Yeah, it'll come back. I've been to Munford many a time. I know where they are, but it will come back. We're having a hard time with cell communication.
A little bit of a low spot.
And that's the reason the video is stopped, and that's the reason we have the audio problems. But they will come out of that in just a minute like they're about to right now. So, Brian, now we got your video back. Go ahead. So you say you got some hail accumulated on the road there?
Yes, it's hail that we can still see on the grassy areas on the shoulder of the highway. And the ones I just saw were golf ball size for sure. So obviously this storm has laid down a nice swath of hail, golf ball size hail, and it continues to do so.
We're getting reports now of baseball-sized hail, Brian, with this storm in Munford. The core is actually more intense than it was when it came over your location earlier.
Wow.
And again, some of the images that I'll show you here in just a second, it's pretty stunning. So again, we're going to stay with this. Guys back in the control room, I know that we got some live reporters lined up, but we've got to stay with this storm for the moment because of the dangerous nature of this. So again, we have the core of this thing is really ramped up. The velocity or the reflectivity values have come up. And that is coming right through Oxford. It's really pretty much ended back at Munford, and Brian and Meghan are coming up on the back side of this thing. And if by chance we do see a tornado involved in this, we don't see evidence of that now, they'll have a chance to see that. But notice in the back part of this storm, we've got rotation. It is not the classic tornado signature, but again, it is certainly a sign that something might go on there. So we're going to stay with this for just a while longer. If y'all could bear with us back in the control room and out in the field for just a second, and that this storm is quite dangerous. So again, that's the velocity display. Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Just a real quick note. In addition to that, we've just crossed a small creek. I do not know the name of the creek, but we are on the 4-lane section 21 as we've come out of Munford on the way to Oxford. And I want to point out that the rain has been exceptionally heavy, and there is a great deal of lowland flooding, not homes. This is pasture land mostly, but we just came by a spot by that small creek where probably there were, 4 or 5 acres underwater, and it's all due to the heavy rains of recent days and today.
Okay, awesome. And again, let me show some images just in. Let's go to some of these pictures. Again, this is the hail that's been falling in Munford and Oxford, and these hailstones are pretty significant. Again, you can see that that's a whopper right there. That's enough to cause a lot of damage to the siding of a house, to the roof of a house, to a car windshield, and that's the kind of thing that's going on right now. So, again, let's go back to Brian's live stream, and the next question, Brian, obviously you've seen no evidence of any lowering or a wall cloud back there in the right rear flank of the storm.
That is correct, James. There is no evidence of that. I'm not even seeing, at this point, the evidence that we saw earlier of the hail shaft in the cell that's just to our, just ahead of us and just to the northeast. So this has been remarkable, the amount of hail that this storm has put out, and in terms of the length of the area that it has covered as well.
Okay, so what I want to do now is go up on the northern end of this in Jacksonville. Yasmina, can you hear us? Tell us, it looks like you're at the EMA. Tell us what's going on up there in the northern part of Calhoun County.
That's right, James. Right now, we're at the Calhoun County EMA, and this storm that you're talking about is actually what they've been monitoring here for the past 20 minutes or so. They came down and told us about it and told us that we probably should stay put here and not get out on the roads as this comes up this way. Here, we're not seeing any hail right now. It's just raining pretty hard. I can hear some thunder off in the distance. I haven't seen any lightning, just that steady rain coming down. And this is a much different picture than what we were seeing earlier this morning out in this area when, the sun was out. The skies were blue. So much different right now. And one of the things they were telling us up at the EMA is that this was going to be very unpredictable, and we're seeing that. And let's take a listen to what they did say at the EMA about the unpredictability of all of this.
The weather is not 100% science, as we all know. It can all change, and the forecast has been changing since they started predicting earlier this week through today, and it's even changed some today. And just gotta be ready for everything. Hope for the best and just prepare for the worst.
And then right now, Calhoun County is under that severe thunderstorm warning and the tornado watch until later on tonight. So it's important that you don't let your guard down, even if you are here in Jacksonville and you're seeing rain and you're not seeing that hail out here. It is important to still pay attention to what's going on and have a way to get any other warnings or watches that may pop up. For now, live in Calhoun County, Yasmina Alston, ABC 3340 News.
All right, we got a tornado warning now for Cleburne County for this storm. The Weather Service has opted to post a tornado warning, and again, you're looking at some of the hail from that. But this is, if we can do this, Charles, we can show the polygon. This is going to include Cleburne County, and again, we've got evidence now. The Weather Service believes the rotation is tight enough in that we could have a tornado coming right through here. That's the Alabama-Georgia line. The tornado warning in effect until 5 o'clock this afternoon. And again, the storm that Brian and Meghan are on, this is going to be coming, perhaps crossing Interstate 20 near or just south of Heflin and south of Fruithurst. The tornado warning polygon is for areas south of Heflin, south of Fruithurst, down into the central part of the county. So this is a tornado warning in effect for Cleburne County for this storm that apparently has gone tornadic. Let's go back to the high resolution. There we go. If we can go to the high resolution radar in the other box, we've got Brian and Meghan on this. And again, we'll be talking with them. But again, that's a look at the right rear flank of that storm. We'll take a look at the velocity display. And again, there's increasing evidence that we could see a tornado right in this zone right here. And quite frankly, that the circulation is really not that far from Cheahaw State Park. It looks like it might be on the north slope of Cheahaw Mountain. That's Alabama's highest mountain. So again, we have a tornado warning now. If you live in the southern part of Cleburne County, now is the time to go to your safe place. That is a small room on the lowest floor near the center, away from windows. You don't want to be in a mobile home. You don't want to be in a car. Those are two of the worst possible places to be. People that live in manufactured housing need to have a plan, and if you have that plan, you need to implement that right now. We often cannot give you 30 minutes lead time. Sometimes it is much shorter, and hopefully your shelter is close. But again, we have a tornado warning in effect now for the southern part of Cleburne County. This does include the city of Heflin. Fruithurst is kind of on the border. Edwardsville is on the border. This does include the city of Ranburne in Cleburne County. So this is what we'll focus on here for the course of the next 30 minutes or so. And this is one of the concerns we had, was this happening this afternoon. Let's go to Brian and Meghan. Brian, you're on the backside of the storm. Looks like you guys are getting close to Oxford.
We're in Oxford. Matter of fact, the is within sight. We're going. Yeah. Interstate 20 staying behind in the storm. Unfortunately, it goes just wherever it wants to. We have to follow the roads.
Okay, and Thomas, our producer, says they have a shot of the storm from another angle, I think. Thomas, if you can tell us where this camera is located. Okay, that's not even close. Let's go back to the. Let's go back to this. We got to stay on this storm, but we got to stay with this one again. Brian, you're going to be coming up from the southwest on this. You're going to go down Interstate 20, which is a good course of action. And Brian he's doing it the classic way. Brian's coming up on the southwestern flank. It is perfectly safe. Brian trains spotters. That's what he's been doing for the last few weeks. And this is a great example of the way to do this properly. And again, you got in that hail, and I've got probably 200 pictures of hail, in some cases the size of baseballs. But again, you can clearly see that Brian and Meghan are coming up on Interstate 20 in Oxford. They'll be getting on the interstate, headed back to the east, over into toward Cleburne County. But obviously, the screaming message we have right now, nobody should be driving along Interstate 20. And if you can communicate this to somebody that maybe you know that's driving on the interstate, call them and let them know that they need to pull off at an exit if they're anywhere between Oxford and Heflin. Anywhere between Oxford and Heflin. Nobody should be driving along Interstate 20 until this storm passes. We have the possibility of a tornado, and again, based on the atmospherics, we have the chance of a strong tornado in some of these supercell storms today, and we strongly recommend that nobody be on that highway. That's the last place you want to be, is Interstate 20. And of course, that is a major east-west thoroughfare across the state and the southeastern states. It is highly traveled. Thankfully, the schools closed. In many cases today, we don't have buses on the road, which is a great call. This is now a live shot from one of our units out in the field along Interstate 20, and they're doing the same thing. They're coming up on the storm from the west. So that is a safe approach. This is from Patrick Thomas and other members of our crew. And again, this is a live look at the same storm. This is just a different view. Brian and Meghan are coming up one side. And again, they're both going to be pretty much along Interstate 20, chasing this storm as it moves over into Cleburne County. But the important message we need to share right here is that if you need, or if you live anywhere in Cleburne County that is along and south of US 78, that's the best way to put it. Along and south of U.S. Highway 78, you need to be in a safe place now in Cleburne County. This includes the city of Heflin. It includes the city of Ranburne. And, of course, by safe place, we're just talking a small room on the lowest floor, near the center, away from windows. No mobile homes and no cars. This is a storm that developed very rapidly in a very favorable environment. And, again, the major north-south crossroads through this stretch will be Alabama Highway 281 and also Alabama Highway 9. Nobody should be driving along Highway 9 from the school, Pleasant Valley, back up toward the interstate, back up into Heflin, basically from Delta to Heflin. And again, nobody should be along Interstate 20. And quite frankly, I would not want to be on U.S. Highway 78 because that's the part that's going to have the large hail falling here. So this is a very dangerous supercell storm with the possibility of a tornado. Brian and Meghan, what you got? What you looking at now?
We're looking at a traffic jam coming out of Aniston, Oxford area on Interstate 20. I'm not sure what's causing the problem here, but everybody's slowing down. So we're obviously behind the storm, and it probably looks like with the traffic the way it is, it's going to be unlikely we're going to be able to move along quickly enough to catch up to it. But we do have a gorgeous rainbow, if that's any consolation.
There you go. And again, we're watching that rainbow. And the other thing that we like to see is if we have any damage. But probably, Brian, what's happening, people are listening to us, and that's a good thing. I know that our radio affiliate there in Aniston is WDNG, News Talk 95.1. And I would imagine that we're on the radio there listening to us. And if you're listening by radio, hopefully people have heard that and they're considering pulling over and not risking it. It's not worth the risk. If you don't have radar and a storm chaser vehicle, you've got no business even being close to this thing. Now, Brian and Meghan, they're two professional meteorologists with all the equipment they need. But again, that is a storm that is meaning business. We have had baseball-sized hail with this storm. And again, it's a very impressive signature with a V notch. In fact, if you can see on the radar in the other box, notice how the echoes V out. That means that the updraft is so strong that the upper winds are having to go around that, making the V notch. And we should also point out we've got a new severe thunderstorm warning up here for the northern part of this thing. We talked about the northern part growing in intensity, and sure enough, we do. We've got a new severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect. This is for the northern part of Calhoun County, for this stuff right up in through here. This is going to affect areas north of Jacksonville. That hail shaft to the north is crossing Highway 278. In fact, Dennis, let me walk out of this thing, and I'll walk back in if you could pop me in on the key wall. So this is, again, a severe thunderstorm warning in effect here. This is Jacksonville, and that's Piedmont, Alabama Highway 21 runs up through here, Alabama Highway 9 coming up here, and this is for large hail. And that thing is starting to show a kidney bean shape, and quite frankly, that might produce a tornado. So again, this is a situation where we've got a couple of spots that are dangerous, and the bottom line is, either way, I would want to be in a safe place. I want to show the velocity display very quickly on both of these. And again, it's going to be a case where we're probably going to need to go to the maybe the high top radar in Huntsville to take a look at this. This is a part of the state where we're kind of equidistant, and it's going to be pretty tough to see from Huntsville. So let's go back to Birmingham. And also we can view this from Atlanta, but clearly there's something going on down there. And you can see that spot right there. That's where we got some problems. And again, this is Heflin. That's Interstate 20. The circulation is just south of Interstate 20, moving northeast. And at some point that might jog up here and touch Interstate 20 near Heflin or just to the east of Heflin. So again, I would say nobody now needs to be driving along Interstate 20 anywhere in Cleburne County, from the Cleburne County line that borders Calhoun County back over to the Georgia state line. Because of that signature. Understand we got some hail video coming in. We'll take this really quickly. We're going to focus on the tornado. And again, this is coming from Oxford earlier today. And quite frankly, that is not the largest hail that we have seen. We have seen hailstones, quite frankly, a lot larger than that. But again, that is a sign of what's going on here. So we've got two dangerous storms, and quite frankly, Charles, number 3 is starting to pop down here now.
Yeah, I was just looking at the storm down here in Coosa County, keeping an eye on that one. It's actually forming very similar to the one that we're watching now with the tornado warning on it. And what the deal is, we told you that as these storms approach the eastern counties, that they're starting to become a little bit more well-developed. Let's go back to that high-resolution radar, Director, if we can. Let me show you that. Again, the storm to the south there, probably getting a little bit of hail with that as it crosses over Highway 280 just south of Goodwater. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some hail. Some of the indications there, we might see some pea-sized or even marble-sized hail out of that storm as it moves into clay. Really start to move on out. Of course, right now, its current time is 4:21. That tornado warning over East Alabama is until 5 o'clock, I believe. So do keep that in mind. The tornado warning, as it moves south of Heflin, right now, some pretty good indications. And I'm just kind of doing a scan here. I'm seeing winds of inbound of about 45 and outbound of about 20, 25 miles an hour. So good rotation indicated there, and we're monitoring that very closely, just right along and just to the south of the I-20 corridor. Not a good time to be on the road there in East Alabama.
Yeah, I got some 86-mile-an-hour winds on one side, and on the other side, well, I just saw 105. Bottom line is this could be a big tornado here. The radar beam is not close to the ground. This is a spot where we're kind of in between the Birmingham and the Atlanta radars and the Huntsville radar, and the radar beam is probably about 5,000-6,000 feet off the ground in through here, but we're getting some very strong wind velocities and very strong evidence that something is going on here. So we want to take this seriously. This is a tornado warning for Cleburne County in East Alabama. Let me just say now, this storm is on by Aniston and on by Oxford. If you're in Calhoun County, from this storm, you've got no problems. The storm up to the north producing large hail. This is coming across the far northern part of Calhoun County, and quite frankly, most of that is up into Cherokee County. The storm you see right there. We're not seeing any evidence of rotation yet at this point, so there's no tornado warning up here, and that's the reason we're not focusing on that. But clearly, For those of you in places like Goshen and Spring Garden, the southern part of Weiss Lake, that's going to produce some very large hail. I mean very large, maybe the size of baseballs. We had a lot of that going on here today. But the storm of concern, it is this one that you see right here. And again, that is a storm producing extremely large hail and possibly a tornado, maybe a significant tornado, a larger tornado that is cutting across Cleburne County. The greatest tornado threat still seems to be south of Interstate 20. It seems like this storm is veering a little to the right of the mean flow, which could keep the part of the storm that is producing a tornado south of Interstate 20. But again, this is a very dangerous storm and one that you've got to take seriously. And again, for those on the interstate, nobody should be driving Interstate 20 anywhere in Cleburne County, period. From the Calhoun County line to the Georgia state line. You need to be off of that. And if we can, let's go back to Brian's stream. And Brian and Meghan, tell us how the traffic is and what's going on from your perspective there.
Well, I think everybody's listening to you, and they're all putting on their flashers and slowing down. And we're trying to move safely, navigate through the trucks and the vehicles and the trailers and everything else. But that storm is still south of the interstate, and we're beginning to get some larger raindrops once again, as we're getting more under the influence of the storm that may be producing that tornado, James.
Yep. And again, Brian, you went through this storm in its development phase, and you caught that large hail that was golf ball size, and I think you were pretty impressed by the storm structure even in its infancy back then in Talladega County.
I was. That storm really did just ramp up. It was just by itself a good isolated supercell, developed with the hail first, and then more and more as it got into more of eastern Alabama. It certainly developed more of a rotation because there was a broad rotation even when it was producing the hail while we were along Alabama 77. But that storm really has continued to organize, and it could be the beginnings of a long-track supercell.
Right, and that is one of my concerns too, Brian, in that this thing might stay down well into Georgia. This particular storm will be across the state line into Georgia by 5 o'clock. But again, it's one that certainly means business. But in terms of these roads that lead south out of Heflin, let me just say Alabama Highway 9. Nobody should be driving along Alabama Highway 9 between Heflin, the old Pop's Charburger's place, down to Delta and Pleasant Valley. Nobody should be on the road at that point. I say Pleasant Valley, Pleasant Ridge. And then Alabama Highway 46, that runs out of Heflin and runs down to Ranburne. Same thing. Nobody should be along Alabama Highway 46. These are roads that are south of Interstate 20. And then, again, ultimately, this thing will be crossing over into Georgia and could be a problem for our friends across the line for places maybe like Mount Zion and Bowden, Georgia. So, again, this is a very dangerous supercell storm that is in Cleburne County. This could be the beginning of what might be a strong, violent, long-track tornado. Our friends in Atlanta will have to watch this. Those of you in Georgia watching us, just be aware this thing is on a trajectory that might bring it close to Atlanta down the line. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying it's a possibility. And based on the conditions we have, the environmental conditions, it might be one of these long track type tornadoes. And you've got to watch that. So, Charles, I'll let you take it for a minute. I'm going to pull in some pictures. The hail images are just tremendous we're getting here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the main weather system here. And I want to report, we've got a couple of reports coming out of Etowah County from this storm, now moving into Cherokee, of quarter-size hail just a little while ago, and that one's moving up towards Ellisville, rather. It's going to be south of Center, mainly south of Weiss Lake. It's going to clip that eastern side, though, as you head up towards Cedar Bluff from Center. Highway 9, you get back over into Georgia in that route, so that's going to be one of those routes. It's crossing over Highway 411 soon, probably going to see some large hail out of that. The tornado warned storm, again to the south, we've been monitoring that one right now. Anywhere along Highway 9 and eastward, along I-20 south of Heflin, Belltown, you need to be in your safe place. That's a warning until about 5 p.m. rather. And then I don't want to discount this storm down here to the south, moving into Clay County. It's coming out of Coosa. And really, I think it put down some hail out here, maybe some pea-sized or marble-sized hail, but it's starting to take a structure very similar to what we saw with these earlier storms that now have warnings on them. As these storms move into the eastern part of the state, really the eastern couple of counties, that's where they're starting to really pop, and that's what we've been worried about all day long. And it's really anywhere from Cherokee, Etowah, you know what, I'll kind of weave out parts of St. Clair there, but even the eastern half of Talladega County down to Coosa County in areas eastward, that's the concern for the rest of the afternoon into the evening hours. So monitor very closely. Again, the tornado warning will expire in about 32, 33 minutes here. I can't see the clock, but at 5 o'clock, that one will be allowed to expire. And, you know, James, I'm looking at some of the signatures here, and I looked at the correlation coefficient. I think it's just too far away from the radar, but I think we're getting some indications of maybe some debris lofted in the air. We're getting some very high reflectivity values starting to show up.
Okay.
It doesn't really show up here on this system.
Yeah, I'll show it on mine in just a second.
But on that high resolution, we're starting to see
nasty looking storm. That is
got
nasty.
A little pendant coming down there over Highway 9, Highway 1 there.
Right down there at Delta.
Yeah, and it's moving eastbound pretty quickly. So anybody in the southern half of Cleburne County you need to be in that safe place right now.
Yep.
And that's no ifs, ands, or buts. Be there. If you know anybody out there maybe hitting the road, headed home from work or headed somewhere this afternoon, anywhere east of really Oxford, you don't want to head eastbound from Oxford. You continue to stay in that safe place, and we'll let you know when it's clear. But these storms, again, are starting to produce some signatures, indications of maybe some debris lofted in the air. Out ahead, these areas, these reflectivity values, most likely large hail. This is what I'm talking about back here on that back edge. So, again, possibly seeing some of that. Just watching, of course, Brian Peters and Meghan are getting there closer. I don't know if we still have them on the phone. Kind of want to get an idea where they are exactly at this point. Are you guys still with us?
We're at exit 199.
Okay.
We're at exit 199. Traffic moving very slowly on the interstate. I'm not sure exactly why, but because there's not any heavy rain going on here, but certainly traffic is not at a standstill. It's moving, but we passed one spot where there was an accident on the other side, but doesn't seem to be anything on this side. So we're trying our best to get to that storm to possibly get some sort of visual, but so far, not much luck.
Hey, let's take a look at some of these images of hail coming in. Again, these are images all from this storm that Brian's in. This shot's pretty remarkable. I mean, that's just unbelievable. That's the hail that's been falling in places like Munford and Oxford, over into Cleburne County. And again, you can see a golf ball down in there, and this is obviously much larger than the size of a golf ball, but we've got hundreds and hundreds of these images, and that's an example of what's going on down here. So
wow, look at that.
Yeah, that's just huge. That's almost 3 inches in diameter. This is very large destructive type hail. Let's go back to Brian's stream, and again, Brian is on Interstate 20, and what I want to do is we'll throw up the high resolution radar. We'll double box this, and what I'll do is put up a dual polarization product called correlation coefficient, and this product enables us to see what might be something that's not precipitation. And it's going to be a little mucky at this point down and through here because it's so high off the ground, but that could be a sign of debris being lofted. What it does, it puts all the returns in a bin, and if something doesn't correlate with the other returns, it thinks it's not precipitation. It could be biological. It could be debris being lofted often, which is what that probably is. So again, there could be some debris being lofted. Again, that's not a classic signature, but again, that's certainly another sign. This is a very dangerous thunderstorm, and this is something we have to take seriously based on the atmospheric conditions, and the hail has to be just huge falling in this thing right now. So again, Brian and Meghan, you are, have you crossed into Cleburne County yet, Brian?
James, I'm not absolutely positive. I am discovering the problem, and that is that, yes, I think we have, that a lot of people are pulling off the side of the road, which is causing everybody else to have to slow down, and that's what's keeping through. We're at mile marker 198, and once again, I'm seeing signs along the side of the road on the shoulder of hail that has fallen, not now, but has fallen before us. And we're seeing that, again, just like somebody spilled their cooler out here on the side of the street.
Wow. And again, I'll tell you, the VIL is maxed out, the vertical integrated liquid. It's maxed out at 80 kilograms per cubic meter. So again, what we're watching, this is the one storm with a tornado warning in the whole state. And the reason we're focusing on this storm, this is the one. It's in Cleburne County in deep East Alabama. It's going to be in Georgia soon. Once it moves into Georgia, we'll hand it off to our friends at the Atlanta television stations, and they can take care of our friends over there in Bowden and Carrollton. But I'll say this, it's clear that the tornado signature is going to stay south of Interstate 20. I don't think it crosses the interstate at this point, the tornado part of the storm, but up there in the interstate, hey, you might have baseball or softball-sized hail going on in through here. All these shades of purple, that's Interstate 20 right there. And again, the possible tornado is down in the zone right through here. That's Alabama Highway 9 coming south out of Heflin down toward Hollis Crossroads. So again, this is the core of the tornado threat is going to be south of Interstate 20. And we encourage everybody that is in Cleburne County, Alabama, anywhere close to this, anywhere in the polygon, what you do is that you respect that. You respect the polygon. You hear me say that all the time. If you're in it, you do something, and if you're not, don't worry about it. The northern edge of the polygon is Heflin, almost up to Fruithurst. The southern edge is down here at Ranburne. So anybody from Fruithurst to Ranburne, you need to be in a safe place. Nobody should be along Alabama Highway 46. This hail is very destructive. This could crack a windshield. This could damage your car in a way you don't even want to think about, with dents and pings all over it. This is the kind of thing that's you just want to stay out of this if you can. And again, because of the tornado potential down here in the southwestern flank of this, we certainly encourage everybody just to be in your safe place. You can't be in a mobile home if you're down here close to this thing. You want to be out of mobile homes, out of cars. In a site-built home, small room, lowest floor, near the center away from windows. You should have helmets in your safe place. You put on your helmets, batting helmets, your bicycle helmets. You should have a portable air horn for everybody, maybe a whistle. We prefer an air horn. Hard-sole shoes in case you have to walk over a tornado debris field. And again, this is the part of Cleburne County, the greatest tornado threat is going to stay down to the south of Interstate 20. And again, that'll be crossing into Georgia probably about 5 o'clock this afternoon. This is a very dangerous storm. This is the only tornado warning we currently have in the state. But again, based on the images coming into us, this is very large hail. Had a note here from Twitter. A person lost a windshield in Munford because of large hail. And I can clearly tell you that that is... it's going on right now. So if you're just joining us, it's 4:35. We have a dangerous supercell storm with a tornado that I can't prove that it's down. This is a fairly sparsely populated part of Cleburne County. That's Interstate 20 up here. The county seat is Heflin, which is right here. Fruithurst on Highway 78 is down here. Ranburne is right down in through here. This thing, if anything, it's going due east. And I'd say if in fact, let me do an animation on this. It might be moving slightly south of due east, which would increase the threat to Ranburne. So the bottom line is, if you are in Ranburne, I would go ahead and go to a safe place. It's a situation where you don't want to take any chances with this. And certainly nobody should be driving along Alabama Highway 46. Alabama Highway 46 runs from Ranburne back up to the interstate. So, again, nobody should be on 46 or Interstate 20. If you live close to Abernathy, just stay in. If you want to be, if you're in Ranburne, I would go to a safe place now. And certainly nobody should be driving along Alabama Highway 46. Alabama Highway 46 runs from Ranburne back up to the interstate. So, again, nobody should be on 46 or Interstate 20. If you live close to Abernathy, just stay in. If you want to be, if you're in Ranburne, I would go to a safe place now. The possible tornado is getting closer to Ranburne. Again, I would say, like Charles says, this thing is probably a right mover, and that signature is getting awfully dangerously close to the community of Ranburne. Really quickly, I want to change the radar to the Atlanta radar, which quite frankly gives us a better view of this thing. And again, that's a look at the reflectivity. Wow. We'll take a look at the velocity.
It's got a much better look at the pendulum hanging down there.
Yeah, and again, there's clear circulation right in here. What you see right here, fact, I'll go back to the reflectivity display, and again, you can see that this is just a very tightly wrapped up storm. This is the inflow notch. The possible tornado is right in through here. And I can't prove that it's down. We don't. That's the one thing. This is why we need spotters. You hear us on the news say all the time, come to our spotter classes. We need you because the radar beam for Birmingham and Atlanta, it's several thousand feet up in the air. We have no idea what's going on down at the surface. And with every scan, you can see how that thing looks better and better organized. Ranburn is here. And based on this, let me just say, this is an urgent call. If you know anybody that lives in Ranburn, in Cleburne County in East Alabama, call them now. Send them a text message and say there's a very dangerous storm approaching and you need to go to a safe place now. Don't panic them, but they need to go to a safe place right now. So at Ranburn, Alabama, this is a call to action immediately. Based on the atmospheric conditions today, this could be a strong, violent tornado. It's something that you've got to take seriously. And if you've got relatives or friends that live there, if they have a Ranburn mailing address anywhere close, up and down Highway 46, in the community of Hightower, same thing. Hightower is a little to the north and west of Ranburn in Cleburne County. Just get in touch with them if maybe they're not watching. The problem we have a really odd problem here with Cleburne County. Technically, Cleburne County is in the Atlanta television market. We know a lot of people would prefer to watch Birmingham. It makes no sense, but years and years ago, when people just had antennas, they could pick up the Atlanta stations better, and that's the reason it worked out that way. But we know some of you are watching, and the nice thing about the internet, the digital stuff, it doesn't matter. People are watching us online, so that's the reason we're staying with this. But this is an extremely dangerous thunderstorm here coming right toward the communities of Hightower and Ranburn and East Alabama. And I'll be watching the feed very carefully for images. And the one thing about the social media, it's our window to the world, which is just a marvelous thing. We can get images and reports from places where we couldn't dream of getting reports earlier. Let's go to Brian Peters. Brian, this thing looks really, really dangerous on the radar. Tell us where you are, and we're going to want you to head down 46 toward Ranburn.
We're coming up on that exit, James. We're getting rain and hail mixed along I-20 here. We're just at mile marker 203, so we're very close to the 46 exit coming up. And the rain is intense, as I think you can see from the screen. Traffic is very slow. A lot of people pulled off under overpasses, I think because of the hail. The hail is not that large, though, and now it seems like the hail has stopped once again. We're passing Cane Creek, so I think the exit's coming up just momentarily, James.
Okay, and again, Brian, that we are going to ask that you follow this on across the state line. We'll see how it pans out. If you find damage, we'll take a look at that. But this is a very dangerous storm, and you are providing a great service. The one thing about the world today, it's not television markets anymore. In the digital world, there are no boundary lines. There are no market areas. People can watch anywhere. So we have a lot of people that are now in the western part of Georgia watching this extremely dangerous thunderstorm. And again, it is clearly moving south of due east. So the tornado threat does not exist along Interstate 20. The hail threat is up there where Brian is. The tornado threat is down Highway 46. And again, from Hightower over to Ranburn. That is the immediate call to action. And you don't have a lot of time. You ran out of time, and hopefully you got the warning when it was issued about 30 or 40 minutes ago, and you are now in a safe place. But Hightower, Ranburn, Alabama Highway 46. Anybody in those communities, you want to be in a safe place now. You should have been there a while back. Don't delay. If you know anybody that lives in Hightower or Ranburn, give them a call. Send them a text message. Tell them James Spann said to go to a safe place now. This is serious business, and again, based on the atmospheric profile. Now, the one thing we don't have a camera on this. This thing more than likely is rain-wrapped. Even if we had Brian and Meghan right within 5 miles of this, I don't know if we can show you that. That's the one thing we can't do is get a camera on every tornado, but that is certainly dangerous. So I'm going to stop this and take a look at the velocity display. And again, you can clearly see it's noisy, but we got the couplet in through here. And I'll take a look at the correlation coefficient display very quickly. This is going to be one of our dual polarization products, and we'll see if we have evidence of debris being lofted. There's a big negative area right in through here, and that could very well be.
Yeah, James, on this product, we've got the donut hole.
See the donut hole. Let's look at the graphics. Put the graphics behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. And that's right down Highway 46. That's just nasty.
Yeah, Hightower, Telecta, Ranburn. That's that classic donut hole shape, that big hook coming around that bounded weak echo region. That's where that tornado is possibly crossing over right there. So, again, probably some large hail. You've got the rotation right in there. If you're in Hightower, Telecta, Ranburne, you need to be in your safe place. The Weather Service over in Atlanta is going to continue this as a severe thunderstorm for now. I wouldn't be surprised when they start to see images like that. They're going to go ahead and expand that tornado warning right on into the state of Georgia. So, again, that's a classic donut hole shape that we were seeing there. This is, I would say it's definitely you need to be in that safe place and stay there until we give you the all clear. If you're in Heflin, you're in the clear at this point. You can come out of that safe place. But yes, definitely a very scary radar images, let's put it that way. And I know there are chasers out there looking, and no confirmation yet. And you know what? If we get away with it, we get away with it. But hopefully we're okay right now. So, James, I'll give it back to you there.
Yeah, let's keep it on this. And again, on the left, you got high-resolution radar showing a very dangerous supercell thunderstorm with the possibility of a tornado, and it could be a strong, violent tornado that is coming through Hightower, and it's about to come through Ranburne, and that's about to cross over into Georgia. And just as a heads up, if you're in Bowden or Carrollton, Roopville, you want to be in a safe place, across the state line. A lot of people watch us there. We know that. Whitesburg, Georgia, you will be under a tornado warning pretty soon. And again, this is the tornado and the thunderstorm itself. It's moving a little to the south of due east. And Brian Peters and Meghan Thomas are in Storm Chaser 3340. They are going down Highway 46, and obviously they are in a lot of rain. Brian, tell us what you got there. Where are you now?
Okay, James, we're on 46 headed south. We're probably about 12 miles from Ranburne, and visibility is horrible. The fog is just terrible. I think partially because of the rain-cooled air and maybe even for hail that has fallen earlier. Not seeing any hail alongside the road, but we're moving along at a steady speed, not going faster than the visibility allows, but we're moving along here, and we'll be crossing a creek coming up here in just a minute, and it says the Perrier Hand Bridge over the Tallapoosa River. So you probably know exactly where that is, James.
I do. In fact, Megan just tweeted out a GPS coordinate with your location on there. And again, if you see any, we're going to leave your stream up. We've got you on the air with us, and if we see any damage or something, then we'll stop and take a look at that. But the main message here, and again, this thing's going to stay in Alabama for about maybe 10 more minutes. We've got what could be a very dangerous, perhaps large, violent tornado that is approaching the city of Ranburne. It's near Hightower now, coming up on Ranburne. And again, Brian, they're coming on the backside of the storm down Alabama Highway 46. But clearly nobody should be in any place other than a tornado-safe place in Ranburne. You've got to be in there. You've got to be. Yes, sir. Yes.
I'm not sure. I can't tell you a mile marker, but we're seeing tremendous evidence of winds, probably on the order of 45 to 50 miles an hour. The road is just absolutely covered with debris. Megan is tilting the camera down just a little bit. This is small debris, so it's probably not high enough to warrant a severe thunderstorm warning. That is 58 miles an hour, but that is definitely evidence of 45 to 50 miles an hour for sure, and that's based on experience and nothing else.
And let's go back to the double box. I want to show the radar signature, and then Brian, your stream, and looks like you got some fog, maybe from hail. You think, Brian?
Yeah, hail fog.
Yeah.
I think yes, either that or the cool air. The temperature on the chase is 1 degree, which is the coldest we've seen all day.
Yeah, and that's probably related to for the hail that's come through there. So again, and let me just say, there are a lot of questions about other parts of the.
Well, just the debris on the road is tremendous. The roadway in places is obviously carpeted with small debris. Evidence of 45 to 50 miles.
And again, they're in a dead spot. They're going to come out of that. We'll leave that stream up. When they come out of the dead spot, you'll see the stream picking back up. But what happens? You lose the audio, you lose the video. We're kind of at the mercy of the cellular coverage for our spotters out in the field. But boy, we've come a long way. 20 years ago, we could dream of doing something like this. So again, we'll go back to Brian's stream in just a second. Let's just come out with me with a high-resolution radar behind me, and we'll talk about this. So this is a very dangerous thunderstorm. This came across Munford. It came through parts of Oxford, producing hail. We have hail like that falling along and south of Interstate 20 up here near Abernathy and the Georgia state line. That's the interstate. That could be a very large tornado. And again, we're starting to see maybe evidence of a debris ball down here. Again, I just don't like what we're seeing down here. This is what could be a large tornado that is right on top of Ranburne, Alabama. The warning went up about 30, 40 minutes ago. That's a lot of lead time, and quite frankly, it's right on top of the town right now. It's going to be in Georgia fairly soon. This is the velocity display, and that's just a screaming tornado signature here. So that's the velocity display coming from the Atlanta radar. We're getting the better view coming from Peachtree City and the Atlanta National Weather Service, and we'll take a look at some of the dual.
They upgraded their warning to a tornado warning as well, finally.
Yeah, and again, it's a little noisy, but we've got a minimum CC value right here that's very close to Ranburne. That could be debris that's being lofted. And remember, the radar beam is way off the ground. This is debris that's being taken way off the ground and carried up. So with the TDS and a possible debris ball here on the reflectivity, this is clearly a storm that could be producing a very dangerous, large tornado. And this is something we worried about. Yesterday, we talked about the environmental conditions being conducive for these things this afternoon, east of that dry line, and we've got that. So we have a situation where we have a dangerous storm that is right on top. The part that might produce a tornado is basically right on top of Ranburne, Alabama. We got Brian Peters and Meghan Thomas on the storm. They're in a cell coverage hole in a minute. The minute they come out of that, I'm watching this out of the corner of my eye. We'll put them back on and get their report. They're starting to see debris in the road along 46. And let's see, Brian, I don't think we've got their audio either. It's a situation where we've lost their audio and lost their video. So when we get that back, we'll let you know, and we'll bring in the reports. The Weather Service in Peachtree City, the Atlanta Weather Service office, they're extending this tornado warning over into Georgia right now. So again, this is just a very, very, very dangerous storm. Over here in Georgia, you can see this is Bowden, this is Carrollton. This thing is clearly going way south of Interstate 20. This is actually moving southeast, well to the south of due east, and that'll be traversing over here into Georgia. But the thing about it, that means this will not be a threat to the Atlanta metro based on that motion. So, again, once this crosses the state line, we'll kind of hand this over to our friends in the Atlanta television market where, and I got a lot of, I don't want to start calling names. I know a lot of people there, but they'll be able to pick this thing up. And hopefully they picked it up because a lot of people in Cleburne County have to watch Atlanta television because of market designation. Now, real quickly, we've got other storms up here. In fact, what I'll do is change some radar views. We'll go to the Huntsville radar, the high-top radar. We've got one storm that's passing out of Cherokee County. And we're not ignoring you up here. I know you've had storm and you've had some hail, but this is not a tornado storm. This storm that's been up here in Cherokee County is in the process of exiting Cherokee County, moving out of the county, moving over into Georgia. We have other storms forming up here in the Tennessee Valley, and these are pretty strong, coming through Madison County to the south and to the north of the city of Huntsville. And but let's take a look at the Birmingham next, Rad, and we'll see what's happening around here. And you can see these smaller showers are forming along a dry line. The dry line, again, is pretty close to Interstate 65. And quite frankly, again, as we've been talking about, here's the deal. If you're west of I-65, the chance of severe weather is over. Tuscaloosa, Jasper, Fayette, Hamilton, Demopolis, Utah, Greensboro, Haleyville, Hamilton. You are in drier air. The risk is over. From Interstate 65 on east, that's the main problem here. And another storm we've got to watch is this one that is currently in the northern part of Tallapoosa County. This is not too far from New Site here. That's moving again to the east, maybe southeast like the one up in Cleburne County. That'll be affecting parts of Randolph and Chambers counties. But again, that big storm, as you can see, is clearly exiting the state right now. And again, wow. That hook just a second ago was pretty remarkable. In fact, we'll do an animation on this thing. It might be going through an occlusion process right now. Yeah. So I think we have Brian's audio back. So what we'll do is just kind of stay with this radar. Brian, we lost you for a while. You might have to reestablish the Facebook video live. But tell us where you are and what you got.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Megan.
Well, right now we are coming up on the city of Ranburne. What we've done is we've passed lots of debris that has been fallen from trees. It looks very fresh due to the wind. So we are, I don't have a mile marker, but I know, what was the fire department that we just crossed?
We just passed Turkey Haven Fire Department on 46.
Okay. And we are coming up right behind the circulation according to what I'm looking at on radar scope. And looks like it's now crossing into the city of Ranburne from what I can see. And now we are coming up right behind it. So if you're looking straight in front of us on our video, it says that we are up. Can you see it?
I don't think you've got enough bandwidth right now.
Yeah, are you on the stream you've had established, or did you guys start a new one?
It said it went back. We've got 47 viewers.
Okay. All right. We'll do a refresher. We'll get it back on the screen in just a second. So for everybody in the building, here's the deal. This storm is moving out of Alabama into Georgia. So we are going to plan on opening our 5 o'clock news at the regular time. That's in 8 minutes. At this point, we'll not have any tornado warnings in effect for the state. So we will start our newscast on time at 5 o'clock. And, of course, during the news, we'll have frequent weather. And should we have another tornado warning, we just take over. That's the way it works here in the weather business. But this is the reason we've been here and you've not been able to watch Focus at 4. This has been a very dangerous, life-threatening storm that has been traversing the southern half of Cleburne County. This produced extremely large hail. And I've got hundreds of pictures we'll show you back in places like Munford and north of Talladega and Oxford. And again, that is now moving over into Georgia. And of course, the Weather Service has a tornado warning in effect now for their county across the state line, which is, let's see, they got warnings in effect for multiple counties. The problem over there, they've got warnings in effect for parts of South Georgia as well. This is Carroll County, Georgia. This is the county that Carrollton's in. So Carroll County, Georgia, tornado warning till 6:15 Eastern time tonight. But again, that is out of our area, and that is now into the Atlanta television market. So that's the situation there. And again, let me just kind of show you a bigger view. I'll put the radar back on the Birmingham NexRad. And we have been kind of radar short today. The Maxwell Air Force Base radar has been out of service. We're thankful that Birmingham is still working. If Birmingham were to go down today, we'd have some problems. But again, you can see we do have additional cells that are forming. These showers that are along the Interstate 65 corridor are not showing any sign of being severe. The one really to watch, it is this storm that is currently in the far northern part of Tallapoosa County. This is not affecting 280. 280 is right down here, Alexander City and Dadeville. This storm it just came through New Site, and it's really coming up here toward Wadley. Wadley is in Randolph County. So if you're watching us in Wadley, be aware this storm is in an environment that might be favorable for this to go into rotation. Right now, we have no warnings in effect for this. The reflectivity is not as great as the storm that came through Cleburne County. This is not producing baseball-sized hail. More than likely, it's dropping small hail down here in the far southeastern part of Clay County. And again, that's going to be coming right up on Wadley, then ultimately crossing US 431, somewhere between Wadowee and Roanoke in Randolph County. So that is a storm to watch carefully, but for the moment, it's not showing signs of being severe. In fact, let me stop that real quick and take a look at the velocity display. And again, there's clearly rotation here. This is the way that other one started. It started with broad rotation. The rotation tightened up and lowered, and this thing might be doing the same thing. In fact, let me change the view from Birmingham over to Atlanta, maybe giving us a better view. And again, that clearly is a rotating thunderstorm. That is a storm that is located, again, in the far northeastern corner of Tallapoosa County. New Site is here. Daviston is here. Wadley is here. And I'll be honest, I'll shoot straight with you. If I were in Wadley, even though there's no warning, I'd probably go to a safe place. I'd take my family and go to your safe place as if we were to have a tornado warning here. And I want to stress, we don't issue tornado warnings. We are not in that business. But based on the environmental conditions we have today and what's happened so far, I wouldn't be shocked if this were to go with a tornado warning soon. And if I'm in Wadley, I just want to be in a safe place. So for those of you in Wadley and Randolph County, my advice, just take this as if we were to have a tornado, be in a small room on the lowest floor near the center and away from windows. And, you know, Charles, we talked about this during the date about, you know, where are these things going to fire? And you called it. You called it over there near the far eastern side of the state, and that's where they fired.
Yeah, and you know, we just thought that maybe the most instability over there in the eastern half of the state. You can see here, that's where all our warnings are right now, and that was confirmed. We told you, listen, the worst of this should be east of I-65. The further east you go, the worse it's going to get, and that's what we're seeing. We've got strong storms moving into Georgia. They've had a lot more tornadoes develop in South Georgia and into the South Carolina market than us. And I think we lost Brian, and then there.
Yeah, we can kill the audio, Denise.
Yeah.
Brian's phone.
But the problem was, we told you that the weather was going to clear. We would see some sunshine that would add to the instability. And of course, as these storms really ramping back up, large hail damaging winds are primary risk all day. That one tornado warning there. And the good news is we don't have another one. But again, watching that one right there and the southeast corner of Clay moving into Randolph County. Again, if you're in Wadley, do be aware of that. It's going to probably pass just south of Lake Wadowee there, headed towards the northeast. But again, a healthy little storm there. And we've still got a little bit of development back to the west. So still monitoring, but I think by about 6:30, 7 o'clock, the threat's going to be over with for us, and we should be out of the woods neighborhoods for the rest of the evening overnight. So good news there that will start to decline as far as the threat goes. So just watching it very, very closely. And I know we're approaching the 5 o'clock newscast. We're going to go ahead and hold it to that, I believe, James. But for now, no active tornado warnings in the state at this time. So that is excellent news. They have allowed that one to expire, or it's about to expire in the next few minutes.
Yep, exactly. So again, what we're telling people, the threat of severe weather is over along and west of I-65. Along and west of I-65. The dry line is pretty much along I-65, so if you're west of I-65, you're in drier, stable air. The risk of severe weather is ended for Tuscaloosa, Jasper, Haleyville, Gordo, Fayette, places like that. Vernon, Greensboro, Utah. From Birmingham east, the risk of severe weather continues, and again, we have a tornado watch for everybody involved here along and east of that dry line that's in effect until technically 9 o'clock tonight. The severe weather risk will not run that long. In fact, it's pretty much going to be over for Alabama by about 7 o'clock this evening. The one storm we've got to watch, and right now we have no warnings in Alabama. That's the one good thing we have to report. That dangerous supercell storm that came through Cleburne County has crossed over into Georgia. This is the one storm we have to watch that's showing broad rotation. This is currently a storm that is up here in the far northeastern corner of Tallapoosa County, moving northeast in the direction of Wadley. In fact, Wadley's probably seeing some small hail now. And again, for the moment, the circulation is broad. There is no tornado warning, but this could possibly produce a tornado at some point over here in Randolph County. So what we're going to do is start our 5 o'clock news. We have no active warnings in effect. A lot of weather during the newscast. Frequent updates. We'll be back, of course, at 6 o'clock as well. Don't go away. This is ABC 3340. The news at 5 o'clock starts now.